It's now time to go back to our main scene and put our slime attack together and test it out on some enemies. I'm going to go down to my scenes folder and I'm going to double click on main to go back to my main scene. Next, I'm going to expand the attack effects game object. And I'm going to select the VFX folder underneath my prefabs folder. We need some attack effects added to our scene so they can be utilized by the slime projectile and the slime attack emitter. The first thing we're going to need is a slime hit game object. So I'll click and drag the slime hit prefab onto the attack effects game object. Since this slime hit has an AV player script on it, I don't need to worry about disabling it. However, one thing I noticed is that when I finished building the slime hit previously, I forgot to uncheck looping. So I'm going to do that now. Just so I save my changes, I'm going to click the Apply button in the upper right hand corner of the inspector. The next thing we need in our scene is the slime debuff. So I will locate the slime debuff prefab in the prefabs folder and click and drag it onto the attack effects game object. Since the slime debuff will not start the game activated, I'm going to disable it by clicking on the checkbox in the upper left hand corner of the inspector. One more thing needs to get added to our attack effects game object, and that is our slime projectile. I'll click and drag the slime projectile prefab from my prefabs folder onto the attack effects game object. Again, just like the slime debuff, this should not be on by default. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the checkbox in the upper left hand corner of the inspector to disable it. Finally, I'm going to expand the boy game object and then the antenna game object. I'm going to locate the slime attack prefab and click and drag it onto the antenna game object. I want to make sure its transform is zeroed out so that it's centered on the antenna. Underneath the weapon references, it's going to ask what the slime projectile is. So I'll locate the slime projectile game object underneath the attack effects game object in the inspector and click and drag it onto the slime projectile property on the slime attack script. Next, I'll click on the slime projectile game object and look at the projectile references section on the slime projectile script. I'm going to click and drag the slime debuff game object onto the slime debuff property on the slime projectile script. I'm also going to click and drag the slime hit game object onto the corresponding property as well. Once that's done, all my slime attack game objects are correctly linked together. The only thing left to do is to click on the boy game object and look for the player attack script. I'm going to click and drag the slime attack game object onto the slime attack property on the player attack script. Then I'm going to finish by changing the number of attacks to 4. Now I can save my scene and test it out. And I'll notice immediately that I have the slime hit go off, which means I forgot to do one more thing. I'll click back on the slime hit game object and notice that I did in fact turn looping off, but I also forgot to turn off play on awake. So I'll uncheck those as well. In order to save my changes, I'll just click apply in the upper right hand corner of the inspector. I'll save my scene again and hit play. And now we don't have any unwarranted slime hit effects going off. I'll tab over to our slime attack. I'll lock onto the first enemy and fire away. We'll notice that the enemies we hit get covered in slime and slowly take damage. At this point, all of our attacks are complete and in the game. Now that the player is able to deal with enemies, the player is also able to accrue points. In the next section, we're going to take those points and we're going to implement the ally system so the player can summon some help.